UTC today, DeepSeek flipped a switch, and two of the most widely used model names in AI history stopped existing. If you've ever written code that calls DeepSeek-Chat or DeepSeek Reasoner, those names were retired today, permanently. And behind that deadline is the real story. DeepSeek V4, the full official version, is rolling out, and it arrives with the single most aggressive price-to-performance claim in the industry right now. Coding within a fraction of a point of Claude's Opus, at roughly 1/7 the price, and a smaller version cheap enough and small enough that people are already running it at home. DeepSeek is the quietest of the frontier labs. No keynotes, no countdown streams, no CEO trash talk, and this launch landed in the middle of the loudest AI week of the year, 3 days before Kimi K3's weights go public, which is exactly why it deserves the next 9 minutes. While everyone watches the fireworks, the price floor of the entire industry just moved. What shipped? The receipt behind the headline claim, the architecture trick that makes the price possible, the honest limits, including the benchmarks where V4 loses, and what it means for the machine on your desk. As always, confirmed versus reported, cleanly separated. Let's go. First, 30 seconds of context on who we're dealing with, because DeepSeek's personality explains this whole launch. This is the lab that detonated the industry's assumptions once before. Their R1 release moment wiped hundreds of billions off US tech valuations in a single news cycle by proving frontier reasoning didn't require frontier budgets. Since then, their pattern has never changed. Say little, publish weights, price aggressively, let the math do the marketing. No teaser videos, no betting markets on their ship date because they don't announce ship dates. They announce deprecation deadlines and let you infer the rest. In an industry of showmen, DeepSeek is the accountant. And today, the accountant moved the decimal point again. Now, what actually shipped? V4 is two models, both open weight under the MIT license, both with a 1 million token context window. The flagship is V4 Pro, 1.6 trillion total parameters, but, and by now regular viewers can finish this sentence, it's a mixture of experts. So only about 49 billion are active per token. 3% of the model awake at any moment. The workhorse is V4 Flash, 284 billion total, and just 13 billion active. Hold that second number, because 13 billion active parameters is the entire reason the phrase runs at home appears in this video's title. Now the receipt, the claim doing all the work in the headline. On SWE-bench Verified, the benchmark that measures fixing real bugs in real repositories, V4 Pro scores 80.6%. Claude's Opus scores 80.8. That is a gap of 0.2 points, statistical touching distance, between a free MIT-licensed model and the premium closed flagship of the industry. And the price for that near parity, through DeepSeek's API, lands at roughly 1/7 of the closed model's output cost. And Flash, the small one, is where the pricing gets almost absurd. 14 cents per million input tokens, 28 cents per million output. Not 280, 28 cents. For scale, that is the lowest price anyone has ever attached to a model in this capability class. DeepSeek also introduced something no frontier lab has done before: peak and off-peak API pricing like an electricity utility. Run your batch jobs at night, pay even less. When a lab starts pricing intelligence like a commodity with time-of-day rates, it's telling you exactly what its strategy is. V4 isn't trying to be the smartest model in the world. It's trying to be the cheapest good one. And it just set the floor. Think through what a floor this low actually enables, because this is where it touches your projects. At 28 cents per million output tokens, workloads that were budget line items become rounding errors. An agent that burns through 10 million tokens grinding on a task overnight, under $3. Processing every document your team has ever written, pocket change. The high-volume, low-stakes work we've been calling the 80% all month just found its natural home. And there's a second-order effect worth predicting out loud. Every free tier, every gateway, every router we've covered prices against the cheapest credible backend. And the cheapest credible backend just got cheaper. When the floor drops, the whole building settles. Expect the free tier economy to get more generous within weeks, because now it can afford to. So how is that price possible? One architecture idea, and it's beautifully on brand for this channel. V4's attention system combines two techniques: compressed sparse attention and heavily compressed attention. Skip the acronyms. Here's the plain English version. In a normal model, the cost of paying attention to a long conversation balloons as the conversation grows. That's why million token context windows are usually eye-wateringly expensive to serve. V4's rework compresses what the attention system has to read and skips what it doesn't need, cutting the serving cost of long context dramatically. Notice what that is. It's not a make the model smarter trick. It's a make the model cheaper to run trick. DeepSeek spent its architecture budget on efficiency instead of capability. The same trade we watched Google make with its flash line this week. The same theme as TurboQuant shrinking memory, as Colibri streaming from SSDs. The entire industry's frontier has quietly split in two. The race to be smartest and the race to be cheapest per unit of good enough. V4 just took the lead in the second race. Which brings us to the part this channel cares about most, running it yourself. V4-Flash, at 13 billion active parameters, quantized down to 4-bit precision, is genuinely viable on consumer GPUs. And this isn't theoretical. In NVIDIA's own developer forums, community members are documenting V4 Flash deployments on DGX Spark desktop systems right now. A 284 billion parameter model, MIT licensed, with a million token context, running on a machine that sits under a desk. Between this, Laguna on a single Spark, and the SSD streaming tricks we've covered for the true giants, the runnable at-home tier of OpenAI just gained its cost champion. The weights are on Hugging Face. Nobody can unship them. A quick practical note before the honest section, because it affects real people today. If you have any code, tool, or script that calls DeepSeek-Chat or DeepSeek-Reasoner, today's retirement means those names are gone. The migration is simple. The new model IDs are DeepSeek V4 Pro and DeepSeek V4 Flash, but simple and automatic are different words. Check your configs. That deadline is also, not coincidentally, why the GA rollout is happening this week. Forcing every legacy user onto V4 in one move is the quiet company's version of a launch event. Now, the honest limits, because the headline is real, but it is not the whole picture, and 3 things belong in the other column. 1. The reception has been genuinely muted, and the scoreboard explains why. On several public evaluations, Kimi's previous model, K2.6, not even the new K3, outscores V4. On the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index, V4 Pro sits second to K2.6 among open models, and K3 scores 57, ahead of V4 Pro, ahead of GPT 5.5, ahead of Opus 4.8. So let's be precise about what V4 is. It is not the smartest open model. On coding specifically, it's elite. That 80.6 is real, but as an all-rounder, the crown currently lives elsewhere. V4's claim to fame is being almost as good for dramatically less. That's a different achievement, arguably a more useful one, but it's not the best model, and this channel won't pretend otherwise. 2. The feature that dominated the pre-launch hype isn't confirmed. For months, leaks talked about an Ngram memory architecture as V4's revolutionary secret. The official documentation doesn't mention it. Until DeepSeek says the word, treat Ngram as rumor that didn't survive contact with the release. A good reminder of why this channel waits for model cards. 3. Some early serving wrinkles. Community reports during the rollout have flagged inflated token counts and leaked internal tool call markers on the Flash endpoint. The kind of serving side bugs that usually get patched within days. But if you're building on it this week, watch your token bills and your outputs. Launch week infrastructure is launch week infrastructure, even from the quiet lab. So where does this leave the board, 3 days before the biggest weights release in history? Here's the honest map of OpenAI this week. If you want the smartest open model, that conversation is Kimi K3, with its weights arriving Monday. If you want the best open coding model that runs on one box, Laguna and now V4 Flash are fighting for that exact slot. If you want the absolute lowest price per token of frontier adjacent quality, as of today, DeepSeek V4 owns that title outright, and it isn't close. And behind all three, Quen's 2.4 trillion parameter 3.8 is looming, and Minimax has a 3 trillion model in the pipeline. 5 labs, 5 open releases, 1 month. A year ago, open weight frontier model was a contradiction in terms. This week it's a crowded product category with price wars and time of day billing. That's not a release cycle anymore, that's an economy. So here's my question, and I'll pin it below. When you pick a model now, what actually wins your workload? The smartest one, the cheapest one, or the one you can run on your own hardware? Because those are now 3 different models, and I suspect the answers across everyone watching are about to surprise each other. Tell me your pick and your use case. And with K3's weights landing Monday, you already know where the follow-up is. Every source, DeepSeek's official docs and pricing, the migration notice, the benchmark data, and the community deployment reports is linked in the description so you can verify every number yourself. That's the standard on this channel. If you'd rather understand the future than pay for it, and today, the price of the future literally dropped, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.